Today's podcast is going to be me having a conversation with a close friend that I've been in a band with for 12 years. We all have our own original story. We all have our own original past, present, and future. When you join a band with somebody, you know them from there. You may ask questions, you might get to know them a bit, but you really start your knowledge of that person from that point where you join the band. And I always felt like there was more that I wanted to know. There's so many stories out there to hear. And if it's someone in your band, it's like captivating. So that's my thing. I want to know all the stories. Tell me a story. I want to hear the stories. Today's guest is Mr. Dennis Asher. Dennis has been a musician in the Minneapolis music scene for 30 years. He's played in bands like Casanatra, Goodnight Ritual, Cold Cranking Amps. He's currently in a band called Uncle Chunk. You might have heard of that. Today we're going to talk to Dennis and hear some stories of him growing up. We talk about what it was like being a kid in Esco, Minnesota, wanting to be into music, and what it was like going to Berkeley Music College. We talk about his first attempt down here to play music and then ultimately going back home for a little bit. Lots of conversations, lots of history. So thank you for checking this out. And Mr. Dennis Asher.
Ding dong. Please no soliciting.
Anyway, we've been friends for
a long time now.
For a long time. I mean, we've been in a band together for over 12 years.
I know.
But, you know, it's kind of one of those things where I wanted to talk to you first and just kind of go over this and that and the other because I know you, but I don't know you. You know, I mean, there's so much that happened in life before we ever met.
Yes.
And before we ever started to play music together and learn about each other. Yeah. So this whole thing to me is getting to know each other.
That's true.
You know?
That's a good point.
So let's start right at the beginning. What started you? How old were you? What made you think music was what drew you?
Well, I think that everybody who writes songs at least, starts out when you're a kid walking around in the yard, playing the drums with your teeth and humming stuff, making stuff up in your head.
Yeah.
So I remember that from an early age.
Okay.
But I didn't start playing guitar till I was 15.
Oh, wow. So that's kind of a late start, right?
It was kind of a late start. My parents didn't think I was going to stick with it, so they wouldn't.
Was there any other instruments before that?
I played trumpet, yeah.
I played trumpet as well.
Did you play trumpet? See, I didn't know that. See, here we go.
I played cornet. I played every brass instrument there was.
Nice.
Because back then, you know, you had music in school.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what you did. You had music class. Mrs. Hubach was my music teacher. Do you remember your music teacher? Did you have one?
Mr. Campanera. He was the elementary school guy.
Yep. So you played trumpet.
Yep, I played trumpet. I think we started a band at Esco. My town was small, Esco, Minnesota. It's, you know, class of 80 some people. So everybody wanted to play drums. Everybody wanted drums, and I'd lost out.
How did you lose out? Did you compete or something?
They just drew.
Okay.
So trumpet was the second most popular. But I'm glad I did play trumpet because I probably learned how to use my diaphragm, and we probably both, you know.
And it was our first, at least for me, it was my first foray into actually reading music and learning notes.
Yes.
You know, I still remember like F-A-C-E.
There's no way in hell I'd be able to do that. Yeah, I can. Now that you're saying that, it's like, oh yeah, F, yeah.
Yeah, so just a little bit, you know. But I mean, I went through trumpet. I even played tuba. I went for an entire year playing slide trombone just because I wanted to go, that's the only reason I wanted to do it.
You still want to go like that.
Right? So 15, went to guitar.
So I went to Schmidt Music in Duluth, and they had a deal where you get to rent a crappy Cort guitar or something, and you get 8 weeks of lessons. I think it was,
Wow.
and they were group lessons, so it was me and like 6 or 7 other people.
And what were you learning?
Just basics, really basic cover songs and just basic open chords.
So did they start teaching you at Schmidt like right away with actual songs, or was it like this is how you tune?
No, it was yeah. Well, they had to teach you how to tune, and then slowly cover songs, like the really simple stuff,
Like Smoke on the Water.
Michael rowed a boat ashore. No.
Oh, that kind of stuff?
No. It was rock. I remember Money for Nothing being one of them, and that was actually, it's really a hard riff, actually. Nobody could get
to
that.
do it
So
right.
I don't know what she was thinking. Yeah.
That's cool. For me, it was Smoke on the Water.
Oh yeah, Smoke on the Water was probably my first riff.
Yeah, that was mine.
And we all played it wrong, as Richie Blackmore would say.
And at least for me, I learned one riff. I didn't learn the song. I learned the riff. That's all I learned.
That's all you needed.
And then later on in life, I'm going, oh, you mean it's just bump, 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 bump. I could have done the whole song.
There's a whole song.
There's a whole song there. I can't remember necessarily what some of the other ones were, but that was guitar. For me, guitar started at like 13.
And guitar was the first rock instrument.
Right. And it was a Montgomery Ward's Harmony Stratocaster.
Nice.
I babysat for my aunt for the entire summer, and she bought it for me.
That's awesome, really.
Yep. And
your route was way more responsible than mine.
Well, it was also, I don't know about you, but when I was like 9 or 10, I got my first stereo in my room.
Oh yeah.
I was going to bed to Pink Floyd, The Wall.
It was the stereo. I remember getting the first record player.
Yeah. I would always go to bed to like Pink Floyd, and my room was my sanctuary where I went and I listened to music. Foreigner was huge. My Uncle Rocky, I remember my introduction to Foreigner, 8-track in the Monte Carlo back in the day, and he's cranking like Jukebox Hero, and I was hooked.
I love that song.
I just wanted to go into that stuff, So music for you, Esco, guitar at 15, easy stuff.
It came pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that I had to learn chords. So I wanted to shred immediately because I was already into.
What were you listening to then?
I was listening to Yngwie and Randy Rhoads and all that crap, and I didn't even know how to play yet.
Yeah.
So that was like right when Yngwie came out. And I remember after 8 weeks, my teacher, her name was Gigi. She was like a little hippie girl from Duluth. And I brought her in the Yngwie marching out record. And put it on. She goes, I can't show you how to play that. And I blew my mind. Like, you don't know how to do this? Like, I had no idea.
You're a teacher.
No idea.
You're a teacher. Come on.
No idea. So she got to the point where she's like, I can't teach you anything else. So she let me go. And then I got a guy named Jim Cheek, who was really good. He was a kind of a lounge act type dude, but he knew every style. And
up in Esco still.
Duluth.
Duluth. So you had to go to Duluth, which is what?
There was nothing
15 minutes north?
Yeah, it was basically a suburb of Duluth. Yeah, there was nothing in Esco. Not a damn thing.
Including you now.
It was like the last dry town in Minnesota too, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, Jim Cheek was actually, I remember watching him playing the solo to Stairway to Heaven in that little, teaching room.
Mm-hmm.
Note for note, and I was like, it blew my mind. So he was the best teacher. He was better than most of the dudes at Berkeley because I was with him for like a year and just taught me a lot of things like, no, you need to pick harder. You need to have, all kinds of little things.
So you learned a few songs from a basic Schmidt instructor, but then wanted more. So you were hungry for more. And then you went to somebody really right still in the beginning who said, this is what you need to do, and gave you guidance there.
Yes. So
do you think that helped you more than the guys that sit out there and just sit in their room for 3 years and learn it themselves?
I think it did. And I'm surprised that I did it because it's not really in my personality to search for help. But he, and I only, when I quit, by the time I had quit taking lessons from him, I was in a band and I was learning songs and doing everything. So it was a fast. Within 3 years, I was going to Berkeley. So,
holy cow! So 15, you start playing guitar. By 18, you're going to Berkeley.
Yeah, but you don't have to be good to go to Berkeley. I mean,
No, but you have to want to go to Berkeley.
You have
and
to want to, yeah.
Don't you have to audition? Do you have to audition?
You have to send in an audition, yeah. And there's a written theory test, and the audition was just a 4-track that I did at my buddy Jeffrey knows.
Was it original music that you wrote?
Yeah, it was all original.
Was it solo and shredding, or what was it?
Bad. Yeah, it was hack shred with the cheesy drum machine that I had, and he on his Tascam, the Tascam 4-track.
But like everybody did that with a simple.
Mm-hmm.
And you just
basically.
Yeah.
And I remember harmonizing the lines, some of the lead lines, and thinking I was cool. And it's like I didn't know how to harmonize. It was just parallel thirds all the way. Like it didn't make any sense whatsoever, but I still was gonna harmonize it, because I thought I knew what I was doing.
So my question to you too on that is, within 3 years, and you have to audition, and you have to do a theory. So you really studied in school to learn music, to be able to
work hard. Yeah, I worked hard at that to get in there. Yeah.
Do you still hold on to some of that theory? Because
oops, excuse my language.
Oh, go! I don't care about that.
Look, it's all gone. It's all gone.
It's crazy how that goes.
But it grows into you. It doesn't. You don't have to remember it anymore, because then you can hear it.
Yeah. For me, it's like I could sight read in my teens, and tab wrecked me. I started looking at tab, and I just stopped reading music.
Yeah.
It destroyed me, and now I can't tell you one scale. I mean, I could do an E major scale, but that's about it.
I know all the theory there is to know. There's no way I could read a sheet of music right now. Yeah. I haven't done it in so long. There's no way.
See, that's the thing that sucks, because like there's so many people out there that are incredibly talented, but you couldn't be a session player because you don't know how to read.
You know what though? That's the thing is, one of my buddies from school ended up doing sessions. He moved to LA and did a bunch of sessions and played with a bunch of people. He's like, I was like, what's the reading like? He's like, I haven't read anything, dude. They just give you a demo the night before. You go home and do the homework and come back.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Like, really? Well, if only I would have known that,
Right. You would have moved to LA 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
Oh.
But now the only session guys are bass players. It seems like there's no session guitar player. There's no guitar in anything.
It's like going to the weekly jam. It's like I can show up at a jam and there's like 12 bass players. I'm like, all right, I'll play. Does anybody not want to play tonight? I'll play a song. Okay, so that's cool. So what made you want to go to Berkeley?
I wanted to go to GIT because that's where all the shredders were. And my dad was like, you're not moving to LA. So Berkeley, I thought, was out of reach, and it was too expensive for us. But we got loans, and I got a Pell Grant, when they used to actually give grants out. And my dad sacrificed a lot. Both my parents sacrificed a lot to send me there.
I think that's amazing.
They couldn't afford it.
My mom couldn't afford the rental of an instrument forever. That's why I babysat for my aunt,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was a single mom raising 2 kids on just a regular laboring kind of job. She was customer service, but there's no real money there, So I totally understand that. I mean, I never even thought college was an option for me. I went out and, what was it, at 16 or 17, I think I quit school and started working overnight cook job just so I could play music during the day.
Yeah.
And when I was 19, I moved to Seattle.
You did? You were only 19 when you moved there?
Yeah. I just turned 19 and I moved to Seattle because I wanted to be a rock and roll star and really I just wanted to get away.
It's important to get away.
Yeah, just to kind of live.
At that point in your life.
And then moved out there, got in a band. It was a weird time out there because there wasn't a lot of venues and Soundgarden had been signed. They had already toured. I think I was there for 2 or 3 months, and they had come home. And
so
we
you're
went
talking
to see them.
89, 90 basically, when they were just starting to...
The funniest part that I still tell everybody to this day is like when I moved there, Alice in Chains was a joke. They had lost 3 record deals, and nobody in the scene thought they were going to do anything.
That's funny.
And then this, Alice in Chains got a record deal. I was like, oh, sure, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, okay. And then they end up being one of the biggest bands in the 90s. There was nothing against the talent that they had. It was just, I don't know what they were looking for or how they blew them, but that was the big thing back then was Alice in Chains.
Well, they're so unique.
They were indeed.
Me and our guys were probably like, oh, what is this?
I don't know what to do with them, yeah.
It's too depressing.
I mean, there was 3 thrash metal bands out there at the time. I was in one of them. And then there was a band called Forced Entry, which is still to this day one of my favorite thrash metal bands. So good. 3-piece band, just phenomenal. Really? Oh, so good. I'll play you someday. And then there was a band called No Avail. And there was another one called Thrash Forward, but they were more punk, not really thrash. So it was a different time for sure, trying to be a thrash metal band
in Seattle.
In Seattle when grunge was starting to happen.
Where would have been a better place at that time? Probably.
Oh my God, I would say anywhere. But we played this place called Legends in Hilltop. Now Hilltop in Tacoma, Washington, which is technically where I lived.
Yeah.
It was basically Crips and Bloods Central.
Really?
Like you did not go down to Hilltop at night. And here I'm in a 19 years old, not knowing anything, in a thrash metal band, going down to play Legends, which really it was really a falling down building that they just decided to put shows into. And then we would do house parties. I mean, I've got videos of us playing house parties where people are kicking holes in the sheetrock as they're moshing around, But yeah, that was my 19 era. It was crazy.
That's a good age.
It was fun.
So at that same time, you were in Seattle and I was in Boston.
We split and did our thing.
Sides of the country.
Then I found out I was going to be a dad. Came back to Minnesota.
And there you
go. So I didn't stay out there. I came back home.
Do you think you would have stayed?
I don't know. I mean, when my daughter was born, I was 19 years old. I had no clue about being responsible. So here I'm like, I always wanted the family. I always wanted the wife and the kid and the white picket fence and all that. Here I had the girl that I thought I was crazy in love with, and at the time I probably was crazy in love with because I was 19, and our baby. I didn't go to work. I stopped going to work. I stayed home, held my kid, fed my kid, washed my kid, changed my kid. Within 3 weeks I was fired, and then I was like, oh, I can't pay the rent. I can't pay the electric bill.
Wow.
So I started looking for work. I couldn't find anything. And then, I got her and the baby, and I had to call mom. I had to say, I need to come home. Here it is 34 years later.
Wow.
And my daughter's an amazing person that I love very much. 34 this year. That's how long it's been. Yeah.
Wow.
So let's go into the second topic. One of the things that I like to talk about, and really the reason I want to do this, there's so many podcasts out there that are talking about what's happening today, what's going on today, who my hero is today for this, that, and the other. When I was a kid, like you were talking about Yngwie. I was talking about Foreigner. But there's this thing that happens when you are a musician and you first step into the scene.
Yeah.
You have people you envy, people that you look up to in the scene. There's like, that's what I want to be. That's my next step. That's where I want to go next.
Yeah.
For me, it was the Regime.
Where you see it right in front of you.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I want. That's the brass ring. I'm not going to be an international superstar yet, but I can get there.
Yeah.
Who, if any, like when you came down here to Minneapolis and started putting a band together, and who are the types of people that you were seeing then that you wanted to connect with?
Oh God, first of all, when I went to Berkeley, it was like, oh my God, these guys there was a lot of amazing players. And that was just, at first it was incredibly defeating.
Just walking down the hall and everybody's right.
Oh my God.
You're not special anymore.
My two roommates were awesome. They're Joy and Rich.
Yeah.
The one guy grew up next door to John Petrucci from Dream Theater. So he knew about Dream Theater way before they came out and stuff.
Okay.
He was always talking about Dream Theater all the time.
Boston guy?
Majesty. He was from Long Island.
Long Island. All right.
But so there was a lot there. But then as far as like getting into a scene, so the first band I played with when I moved here from Boston to here, while I went to Duluth and played with a cover band for a while and then moved down here, was a guy named Rick Billings, who was in Weapons for Liberty, was his kind of claim to fame. He knew all those guys.
Wasn't Weapons for Liberty, wasn't that the drummer from Power Mad?
Maybe.
Like Liberty.
He knew everybody then, though. So he was my first
Okay.
in.
All right.
So the guy I was playing with, I kind of looked up to because, like, wow, this guy knows everybody. He got us gigs, and he knew Domagal. Like, he was buddies with all those guys. And you've just given us these opening gigs that now no way it's going to happen. You know, we open for Night Ranger, Ace Frehley, all these bands.
Yeah.
Gemini regularly.
Okay. Well, so Gemini regularly, and they were a cover band that did 3 hours. So that was back when they let somebody play before.
Yeah, they would do the Mirage shows. They would do these Sunday night all ages. They put 1,000 fucking kids there, you know, on a Sunday night. I wish that could still happen.
I used to go to see Gemini when Brian Ridinger was in the band. And Ridinger is still to this day probably the best drummer I have ever played with. He would take a cover and fucking turn it on its head just to fuck with you. Like Wally and I would go to shows and we'd be like, we're only here to see you. So he'd like play stuff like Man in the Box and he'd look out at us and go, hey, watch this. Just nod at us and start doing the weirdest extra long fills that end on a weird off time, but then come right back in. Yeah. And he would do it just to have fun. Yeah. And he was hilarious. I love Brian Ridinger.
They were a tight band. I remember that. And I remember, that's why I know I saw you at that, because I saw the Regime probably 3 or 4 times. They were maybe not towards the end, but it was kind of at their peak where I think they were going down south and playing shows and doing some touring.
There was
and they owned Ryan's.
I'll sidetrack a little into that. So here I am, 16 years old, and me and Walter Borgen, best friends. We're the straight kids in school because we didn't drink, we didn't do drugs. All of our friends were stoners and wanted to party on the weekends. We usually played Nintendo or played basketball or whatever and hung out. So we go to Northern Lights. And Northern Lights is a place you went and checked out music. You went and you looked at your album covers. If it was a kick-ass album cover, you bought it and said, let's hope it's got good music on it. And so we go to, it was the one in the Midway on University. We go to Northern Lights and we're leaving and I see this cassette tape. It's a demo and it's Regime Dead Serious demo. 6 songs, just cassette tape. It says local band, The Regime.
That's awesome.
16 years old. I'm like, I'm buying this. We take it back to the house. We're listening to it. I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I don't know where I was sugar high or what, but I'm looking at the back of it and I go, hey, this guy's Scott Yauch. That's a really crazy name. I bet she's in the phone book.
You looked him up in the phone book.
16-year-old kid calls up Scott Yauch in the phone book.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Now, the weird thing is, and this is how fate is, Scott Yauch didn't live there anymore.
Yeah.
But he was there visiting his mom. So I basically called the Yauchs home.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude.
And he was there. So his mom's like, Scott, somebody wants to talk to you. And he's a 16-year-old kid. I'm like, dude, I think your band's amazing. Wow.
That's great.
I want to come check you out. When are you playing next? And he's like, we're playing at Ryan's, a bar. I'm like, well, I'm 16. I don't know if I can get in there. It's like, I'll put you on the list. So me and Wally take the 9 bus down 7th Street from the east side of St. Paul into downtown St. Paul
that's awesome.
On a Saturday night. And we go through the front door, 16-year-old kids, man.
You got in?
And we got in.
Into Ryan's.
He said, we're on the list. Scott put us on the list. All right,
that's the 80s, man.
Lets us in, and we're like, holy shit. So I get in there and I walk up on the stage, behind the stage. Now, if you remember Ryan, so you got the stage there, and you had that little ramp that went to the back door into the alley. Back then, that was the little backstage area. So there was no ramp. It was like a step down, and there was this 8x8 square in the back door.
Oh, funny.
So I went on the stage, 16-year-old kid, walked right back behind the stage, opened that curtain. I was like, Scott, and he's right there with the whole band. Like, what the hell? I'm like, hey, it's John. Thanks for putting me on the list.
That's great.
And from that night on, I was a fan. I went back to him after the show and he said, is there anything I could do for you guys? I became their roadie at 16.
That's awesome.
I became their stage manager by about 17. I would go and help set up lights, tear down lights, anything I could do to be close to this band.
That's cool.
When I was 19, I moved away, Roz Clay sent me a care package of like 20 to 30 Regime Knuckle Sandwich cassettes, some T-shirts, flyers, stickers, so that I could spread it around Seattle and Tacoma. So I had those 2 or 3 years where I was away, and then I came back and I took up where I left off, and that was the Vern and Jay years and all of that. But that was me when I was 16. My heroes were the Regime because I'm just a kid, and I'm like, this I can do. I can do this.
See, I would have been in shock. There was nothing like that in Duluth, or there was no. There was no scene. There was no,
Yeah.
I would have been shocked.
So what made you come here then? What made you come to Minneapolis? Because you said you came back to Berkeley, went to Duluth.
I didn't want to stay in Boston. Yeah. Boston's too expensive. Nobody that goes to Berkeley stays there. It's too expensive to live there.
Yeah.
Parents were basically like, we can only afford the 2 semesters. So I came back and I moved down here to play in a band with my buddy Brent.
Now, how did that happen? Did Brent contact you up in
Brent was
Esco?
from high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you were just having feelers out?
We were just messing around. Yeah. Trying to write prog stuff in a Colonial Warehouse, the 2 of us in a room that smelled like ball sweat, as one girl said.
As one girl said.
I remember her walking in, sticking her head. This room smells like ball sweat.
Well, that's because there's 2 men sweating in here trying to make music.
So we just kind of, 2 monkeys fucking a football trying to make cool
What did he play?
Music. What
did he play?
He was a drummer.
So was that, at least you were
always been connected
stuff.
to a drummer my whole life. I gotta have a drummer.
Did you have a name for that little project?
I don't remember. I don't think so. Because then I went and got a gig playing in a top 40 cover band called The Rage from Duluth. And they were already established. They were with GMA for years. So that was a working gig.
So you come home.
I come home. I want to start this fantasy rock band.
You go down to Minneapolis, start
Wales, that. Yes.
How long were you doing that?
Oh, probably 6 months, and then I moved back to Duluth. Of course, I had a girlfriend up there. So.
And then somebody's like, "You can make money up here to cover band."
And I did it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have to have a job, but I didn't make it up. We do the 4 days. You go somewhere for 4 days. This is the circuit. Yeah. Holiday and everything else. The Blue Ox, places like that.
I remember the Blue Ox.
Yeah, we played the Blue Ox regularly. The Reef in Duluth.
The Reef. We've played the Reef.
We played the Reef. The Reef used to be hopping.
It was hopping. That's where we met Ron.
That's right.
Yeah, we played the Reef, Ron. I think twice.
Our Duluth connection.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you go back there for how long were you in the cover band?
Not very long. They were really happy when I quit. Oh God. To me, it seems.
Is that sarcasm?
Yes, it's sarcasm. I was 20 years old, so to me it was like, oh, this is, I was in it for like 6 months maybe, and I thought that was a long time. I was like,
I've been in a cover band for 6 months before, and it was about 5 months too long.
Exactly. They were awesome. They were all. I was 20. The youngest, 33, 40. They were all like 10 to 20 years older than me. So I got a lot of. I got a lot of learning from those guys. I didn't really know anything.
Yeah.
About playing live regularly, I didn't know a effing thing. We had our own truck and our own shit lights.
Oh, so they were like established.
They were established. And they were really good, man.
So what made you decide to leave that?
The bass player, Bill Sandwick, he sounds more like Paul than anybody I've ever heard. He was obsessed with the Beatles. We did Beatles songs and did them well. They were they would do the 4-part harmonies.
I still remember when Son of a played Help with you and
Timmy.
And I just sat there, and I've only had this happen a couple of times. I remember Soilwork. Sam Van Moore tells me, you got to check out Soilwork. And I was like, I've never heard of they were playing at Ryan's with Cataclysm.
Yeah.
I don't like death metal. I'm not going to go. You got to go. I'll buy you a ticket. You got to go. And I remember being in front. Soilwork starts. Sam is right to my left. And they start playing, and I was just mesmerized. Yeah. Like, this band is fucking incredible. And Sam's next to me is like, told you. And I was hooked. Like, the next day I bought the 3 albums that they've done, and I bought the next 4 albums that they did. That was one time. That show was the other time, where you guys are playing that Beatles tune, and you're singing, and Tim's throwing that harmony in there, and I'm not sure the drummer. I think the drummer was a tech for Kid Rock or something like that. It was so freaking tight and so good. I just sat there like, holy shit! I want more of this. And it was like a one-time thing.
One-time thing.
It was kind of like what Jukebox Zero, one-time thing. You know? But
it was fun.
That was great. So then, what made you decide to come back down to Minneapolis after the first foray?
Didn't want to do covers anymore. I was like, I'll never play covers again. Oh God.
Yeah, and then you come down here,
and I didn't for 25 years or whatever.
Is that when you did cold cranking amps when you came down here?
No, when I came down here, that was when I met Rick Billings. I was in a music store shredding in his Guitar Center like people do, you know.
Yeah.
And dude came up to me and started talking to me. He's like, man, you got kind of a funky style. He's from Iowa. And that was my end. He's like, hey, I'm looking for a guitar player. And I just started jamming with him. And then we got a drummer who was really bad. And I don't even remember his name, but he disappeared. And then we ended up getting Todd Silverstone. Todd, he was from Barilla.
Okay.
So it was established. Yeah. And then our fourth member was Mick from Give. He became the other guitar player.
Oh, wow.
So that's my Give connection. I've known Mick since he and
now he's moved away now and everything else, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's plays with a band called American Bombshell, based out of Indiana.
He had such
Mick was fun to play with, man.
Tone, man.
We had a good time.
I still remember he was the first guy I really saw that really developed a tone, not just getting an amp and tweaking it.
It's because he had the two half stacks.
So he had the orange
one tube and one solid state. Solid state was an amp peg.
Okay.
And then I believe he had a Marshall, and it just ripped, man.
Oh, I mean, I used to go, why the heck doesn't he have a second guitar player? And then I heard him play. I was like, oh, he doesn't need one. Because he just hit those chords, and it was like a wall of guitar.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him about simplicity and playing real rhythm guitar. Like, oh, okay.
So that's pretty cool. So you come down and you meet guys that are established down here.
Yeah.
And you do have that connection. So now, Mick, wasn't he also in was it Brass Kitten?
No, Brian, his buddy Brian, the bass player from Give was in Brass Kitten, yeah.
I could have sworn
and the drummer Sid.
There was that connection. So there was these cover bands down here with amazing musicians that just wanted to play original music.
Yes.
So Minneapolis had that. St. Paul had a bunch of original kids that couldn't get their original stuff done, so then they became cover kids.
The opposite.
It completely is. You know, like for me, I will say that when Avalanche first started, we played a bunch of covers, but we were writing. So we'd play shows, and we took the Regime model where you played a bunch of covers for people, but you threw in your originals all the time.
We did that too.
And then eventually we got to a point where it was 90 minutes of just originals. And people still showed up.
You could do that back then, though.
It was a crazy time.
You could mix you could become an original band out of a cover band.
And we did, and it was fun. I mean, we played, and I still sometimes listen to old thrash stuff, and I go, we did that one. We did that one.
Nice.
We did that one. Because we used to show up, I mean, back then, nowadays you practice maybe one day a week with your band because you got a life. But back then, we were 23. We 3 days, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So we would show up on Monday and go, hey, we got a show Saturday. Let's learn the brand new Pantera song, or let's learn the brand new Overkill song.
Yeah.
And we'd sit there and, Super Dave Johnson, Soup, would sit there and we'd play the song, and the song would be over, and he'd go, again. And we'd play it again. We'd play it 5 times just on the cassette.
Yep.
And then he'd go, all right, let's try it.
Yep.
And he would step up there on drums and play that damn thing almost perfect.
I bet.
Because he would just sit on the couch and zone into it and go, this is what it is, this is what it is.
Break it down. He had a method.
Oh, he was good.
Got a method.
Good. I love him to death. He retired now. He'll probably never play drums again, but I wish he would.
Drumming's tough, man.
Especially at our age.
Tough on the body. Especially the heavy shit for that many years. Oof, I feel sorry.
I'd tell Wally and all of them, you want to do an Avalanche reunion? I'm good. You let me know. All I got to do is sing.
What made you the singer when you and Wally were coming up?
Oh, Jesus. So So I got that guitar from my aunt. I played that guitar all the time, but I never took a lesson.
Yeah.
So I never got any good. Wally took lessons from Todd Salmonson
Oh,
or Todd Dwayne
yeah, that's
from
instant.
Guitar
That's
Center
how you
back
get good
then.
in 6 months. Yeah.
And so he was my best friend.
Yeah.
And every time I touched a guitar and every time I'd look at him, I'd go, I can't play guitar. So he got a band together. They called it Demonic Conception.
Nice.
Because, we're rebellious little kids.
I love
And they were playing, I think they were playing some Megadeth and some Exodus, and they were doing covers and doing parties. But he couldn't sing and play. I think the only thing he could sing and play at the time was Wake Up Dead. Because, dance like that, welcome in, dance like that, too much to drink. So they did that, but then they'd get into songs like they wanted to do Chemical by Exodus. And I used to always go over and hang out at practice. I stepped up and sang it one day.
Singing.
And they were like, dude, he could sing that. So I was never an official member of Demonic Conception, but at every party, it'd be like, John, come on up and sing a few. That's where that started. I wasn't playing guitar anymore. We were still best friends, but started singing there. But the weird thing is the next band that we started where I became the actual singer, Alliance, that was the first band we had with Super Dave on drums. We played a few shows and then I got fired from the band because at the time, my only guy that I took stage presence from, Scott Yelk from The Regime.
Yeah.
He talked too much. He joked too much. He drank too much. I was Scott Yelk from The Regime in that band Alliance.
I would love to see that.
We'd go and play a 45-minute set, and I probably talked 20 of them.
Oh, where's the goddamn? Oh my god, dude! That's why. Now I know. I want recordings of this, man.
Oh, I'll send you a couple of
God,
some of the stuff. It's good stuff. Wally's probably got all of it.
Really?
Yeah. Now you just said that's why. What does that mean?
That's why when we do Fool Fighter shows, I always give you shit. We've been giving you shit for years when you do the speech.
Well, you know what's funny
but
about
now
that?
I ask you to do it. I'm like, please talk because I can't. I'm too fucking
I
old
still remember the first couple of gigs where I'd talk and you'd look at me like, "What the fuck? You're the bass player. Why are you talking?" I remember that. It was so fucking hilarious. You'd be like, "What the fuck?" And then we figured it out. It is what it is.
I like it because now Eric talks too, so if everybody's talking, it works good. You get a little rapport going.
Well, and honestly, and I've told this to different guys, and I mean, when you're in a cover band, a tribute's a little bit different because you're out there and let's go. But when you're in a cover band, if you're playing the same song that 9 or 10 other cover bands are playing tonight somewhere,
no shit,
you need to connect with them on a personal level so they want to come to see your band play.
Oh, for sure.
So that's one of the reasons I like to talk, is I like to make sure that the people like us, like me,
and they
like
know that
you.
You're a human and you have a personality.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. But again, my hero was Scott Yelk. That's all he ever did was talk.
Awesome.
He's the funniest guy. He's the most tongue-in-cheek guy, but he will fucking do whatever you need as a friend. He will give you the shirt off his back and then shield you with his bare frickin' chest if he has to make sure you're safe. But he won't compliment you. I remember for the longest time, it's like he was my mentor. He was the guy I wanted to show that I was doing it right. And he used to always give me shit. Always gave me shit. I think it was a TNT gig at Biggs. I think Foo Fighters was on it. TNT was on it. It was for John Woodbury's one.
Yeah, West St. Paul. Yeah.
Yep, we were there, and the Regime did a guest appearance at the end of it. And that night he came up to me and he goes, "Man, I just got to tell you, you've done really well." And I was like,
"That's awesome."
It's like, oh, my surrogate stepdad over here.
That's awesome.
So
pseudo father figure, perhaps.
It was. Yep. Is there any other big thing that you wanted to ask me before I ask you 10 million more questions?
First with the singing, I was curious about that. And then when you went to Seattle, what were you playing guitar, bass, or just singing?
Singing.
You were just singing.
Singing. Yeah.
So you had pretty much focused on, I'm going to be a metal singer. I'm going to do this. Did you ever go for the operatic type shit, or was it the?
No,
you have a high range.
And naturally I am a little higher. It always has been. I think because I was screaming all the time.
Yep.
But when I started doing covers, they would always throw different covers at me to try to get me to not be their singer. It was kind of like challenging me, like, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah. So, I mean, Exodus, I got that. Steve Souza, I had that. That was my in. Then I started doing like Testament stuff, and I started singing like Chuck Billy a lot. But then I started doing King Diamond. I was like 17 years old, and I was hitting the high.
You're hitting the high King Diamond. King Diamond. That's awesome, dude.
And then Overkill had a little bit of all of that. Like Bobby Blitz, he had a Testament delivery. He had some super high like screams in there that were scratchy and stuff. So then I started going down that path, and then I got locked in. When I went out to Seattle, my voice was so screechy. Yeah. Like if I played you some of the music back then in 1989, you'd be like, "Oh my God, that is not you," because it's all I just sunk into that. It was kind of like it was like Metal Church, David Wayne kind of stuff, but even higher.
I was shocked when I saw you guys at the reunion show. It's just your voice. It's like you went back to that, just like that. I was like, "Who is that?" You were a different person. It was a trip. Like seeing you transform into a different human. It was bizarre.
That's right, because we didn't know each other back then.
In town. No, because I don't think I'd ever seen you guys. Not that I remember. I'm sure I did see you open for Regime, but I don't know if I did. I always wonder that. I always wonder that. Did I see those guys?
I think Wally and I met when we were maybe 13. So Jeff had moved in across the street from me. Jeff's first place. I think he was 18 or 19.
Yeah.
His first place right across the street, and they had turned their entire living room into a jam spot.
That's awesome.
All Jeff had was albums and then a drum set, because Andy Mudick was the drummer at the time. And I think, what was that band called? Aftershock. And it was Wally at 13 playing guitar.
That's awesome.
Jeff at 19 playing bass. And then Andy Mudick on drums. So I'm home alone watching my little sister, and I hear drums across the street.
Ooh, I remember
what the hell's going on over there?
Hearing drums come from a basement or garage, it was like, oh.
And I don't know, nowadays it would be considered extremely creepy. Like when I walked backstage and talked to Scott Yauk or called him out of nowhere. This is the type of person I was, though.
You get a restraining order.
So at 13, I hear the drums across the street. I walk across the street. I open the door. I walk up the stairs. This is a duplex. And I knock on the door. I crack the door open, and I'm just like, "Hey, hi." And I look, and Wally's on the drums.
That's great.
Just playing drums. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm John from across the street. How you doing?" And then next thing you know, we're like best friends forever.
You're still like that. That's what you're constantly seeking out. Yes, that's still you.
I think, to me, it's like I like to be friendly. Yeah. I'm not the type of person that's going to totally shut down. I like to say hi, how you doing? What are you about?
Well,
sometimes it's not my thing, and
it's not easy if you're not in the right mood.
Yeah, I'll step away if I have to, but I'm definitely not shy when it's something I really want. Mm-hmm. I'm not shy. I would say that if I go to a party and I don't know anybody there, I'm in a corner. Yeah. I'm looking for my exit. When can I leave? Yeah. I showed up. Yeah. Can I leave now? I've done that many a time.
Well, and getting into any music scene is a lot like junior high. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Once everybody gets to know each other, then everything's fine. But
yeah,
I don't know. I remember feeling like an outsider most of the time. And now that I'm old, I don't give a shit, so it doesn't matter.
Right? It's just kind of like you do what you're doing.
I'm a lot more engaging than I was when I was younger, for sure.
But I think you were, and maybe I'm just wrong, but you were looking for the right people to jam with, because you've jammed with Lance now for over 20 plus
Oh,
years.
very loyal, yeah.
You know, and we've been in a band that's even part-time, but over 12 years.
Oh, yeah.
Casanatra, you're even back to that now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I don't see you just jumping.
No, I'm not like a scene jumper, play with all the bands, and no.
Yeah. You know,
I just think I've learned, well, one thing, it takes a long time to get that vibe, to get where you're firing on all four cylinders if there's four, you know.
Right.
And it's a spiritual thing. It's more than fucking anything else. Chops, I don't know, whatever. Plenty of people have chops and plenty of people are good musicians, but can you be in a room with them and feel natural?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that too. I mean,
once you find that, it's pretty hard to walk away from it, you know.
I agree. I mean, I've been in bands where sometimes the I don't know, the government in the band or the ideology of the band isn't really what I'm into.
Oh, yeah.
But the people are good people.
Yeah.
And when we play music, holy fuck, does it sound good?
Yeah.
You know, and can I step back from my own thing and just enjoy the people and what we're doing?
Yep.
And there's been a couple times in the cover band scene where I've done that, where like, you know, there's too many alphas in here. Yes, you know me very well. I want to get my point across, and I feel my point is the right one, and let's do this.
Well, everybody does, yeah.
You know, and that's who I am. But if there's four of them in a 5-person band, that band could tear itself apart.
Yes.
So I've learned over time to go, you know, I like what we're doing. I like how it sounds. I'm going to step back. You can lead. I'm fine. I'll follow.
It's sometimes it's good to be the spectator in those situations. Especially with, well, I don't know, writing. I think it's easier to stay in an original band for a longer time because you're creating something together.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that too, because as far as like your original music, we all know I am a huge fan of what you write.
Well, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Super fan. No, top fan on the Facebook. But how does that work for you? Like when you write, do you write the complete song? Or do you come in and do other people add riffs? I mean, it seems like you have a fully formed, here's my song, play what you want to play amongst yourselves, but here's the song. Is that not it?
Not every time.
Okay.
As I get older, I write them quicker. But with Casanatra, we've always, if I got if I got two parts, I'm going in with it. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So we can write it more together. It's more fun.
So the arrangements come with everybody.
When we rehearse, we're writing, basically. It's basically writing rehearsal. To write songs that may never see the light of day, but who cares? It's still fun. And that's the thing. I have more fun in that room with nobody in there playing my own shit than whatever, you know.
That's the thing I miss.
Everybody will agree with that, I think.
That's the thing I miss. Like with Nopathy, you know, we got together once a week and we'd end up talking for like an hour and a half before we ever picked up an instrument, just catching up. Yep. It was like bowling night for the guys. Yep. But when we wrote something, sometimes we would write it mentally, verbally speak about it, not even have a guitar in our hand, not even have a riff, but like, hey, let's start out really mellow here, but I want to take it to a really big, let's up-tempo this part. And I still remember there was a song we wrote called Cloak, which it's very mellow, almost all the way through. And then at about 3/4 of the song in, it just goes, cha-chunk, boom. And it just goes to this epic like lift. Yeah, where big epic chords, the singing is harmonized and just crazy. And that concept was talked about an hour and a half before we even thought about the riff. And you could improv it even probably. Yeah, it was like, so let's go ahead and we'll run the verse, we'll run the chorus, we'll run the bridge, we'll run the verse again, we'll run the chorus, but then right after that chorus, let's just fly away. Yep. And that amount of creation and communication is what I miss the most about not being in an original band now.
Big time.
Cover bands is like, did you learn the song? Or do we have to work on the ending? All right, let's go play.
And cover bands, so you got to fix everything all the time, and it's just okay. Oh, you're not hitting that one cymbal, and then it gets exhausting. But
so obviously, Jake his bass lines are awesome.
yeah, he writes good bass.
I love it. It reminds me of like a Beatles-esque bass player, where it's not
melodic.
just give me what chord are you doing? I'm following the chord.
Yeah.
He's walking. He's writing something to it. That type of stuff inspired me when I first started hearing him do that too, even in Apathy, where I would actually do that because, Chris in Apathy would be the really big, grungy, dirty chord.
Mm-hmm.
Tony would be this big, epic, built chord where it kind of stacks.
Yeah.
So the guitars would have this wall of sound there.
Yeah.
What was I going to do? And I would basically listen to the beat and go, I'm just going to write something melodic here.
Yep.
And I would do that all the time. And sometimes it was Jake that inspired me to do that.
That's funny. He would love that.
I think he's a great bass player and a great guy.
Well, he had never played bass, so he was the classic guitar player going to bass, but now he's like a bass player. It's a trip.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And then, so how much does Jer write?
Jer writes like a lot. It's kind of like I bring in something, but Jared brings in stuff too. I don't know.
Does he more like add a layer?
He kind of writes stuff telepathically with me a lot, because then I'll place, because we hung siding together for like years. We worked together, and we're in Casanatra together, and we were playing a lot of shows back then.
Okay.
We'd fucking ditch work and go down to the space and work on shit with our acoustics. Like I had never written with somebody like that so much.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I always look at it like I do the spark, and then he's really good at complementing everything, filling all the gaps.
Right. So he kind of like adds an additional layer.
Yes.
He hears what you're doing and goes, what would be cool with this is something like this over it.
He doesn't even have to think about it. It just happens. It's bizarre.
See,
sometimes we'll have we played together for so long that I'll bring a riff down, and then he'll have a second riff for it, and we didn't even talk about this or anything. It's just like what you're talking about, because you guys had such a long connection. It's just, you already know what you're thinking.
Right.
You can read each other's minds.
Right. Yeah. And then Lance, how often does Lance put a beat that you were thinking to it?
He always asks me that, and I never think of beats when I'm writing stuff.
Never?
No, I don't. I never do. So it's always cool. It's like, oh yeah, that's fucking, I didn't even think of that. So when I write everything on the acoustic usually, so I write it as its own separate thing.
But the acoustic has its own percussive.
Yeah.
So in your head, you're not hearing a kick drum
maybe
snare?
Subconsciously, but I'm not thinking about it.
Oh wow, okay. Because I've always, whenever I wrote a riff, I'd always have the beat in my head, and then Soup would always turn that upside down, and I'd be like, "That's way better. That's what a drummer does."
That's one thing that happens is we hear stuff on the opposite beat all the time with riffs, which is cool. Because
you're hearing the one here, but he heard it somewhere else.
Because he's heard the start of the riff. He doesn't know where the one is in my brain.
Right.
So that creates cool stuff, I think, too.
Yeah, I mean, dude.
Where it's turned around and nobody knows. It's like, oh, okay. But I mean, Lance is awesome. Why would I think of beats? He doesn't even play beats. He makes music back there. He's crazy. He's such an unconventional drummer that it's so fucking fun. It's just.
Well, there's another guy that's schooled. I mean, he
went to PIT when I was when you were in Seattle and I was in Boston. He was in LA.
It's fun to chat with you about this stuff because, we chat for like 5-10 minutes at a gig,
I know,
and then it's focused on the gig.
True.
This is like the deepest we've ever asked each other questions about who we are and how we got here.
Definitely, after that many years, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I think the last thing I want to talk about is, what is your future musically? What do you want to do? Is there anything in the can now or coming, or what do you want to do 3 years from now musically too?
Well, I want to be alive, first of all, like everybody does, because we're getting old.
Yeah.
And I'm an empty nester now. So my daughter's 21. I'm finding myself with all this time. I don't know that was tough at first. The first year was really hard. I'm like, what am I supposed to? I have no purpose in life. Then I figured out, oh my God, I can play all I want now. So we got a full record in the can, not in the can, but we're
ready to record.
Lance is engineering all of this, so we're
so it's already recorded. You just need to.
No, we got demos of everything.
Okay,
we've released one tune, and we've got there's a nice grip of tunes.
Yeah,
but aside from that, so I quit drinking 3 months ago.
Congratulations,
June 9th. And since then, I've written like 18 songs, I think.
I've seen quite a few of your videos pop up of you just jamming.
I just been putting them on. I'm like, screw it, I don't care. I'm putting them up.
Yeah.
Just because, why not? And it's coming. It's just, I feel like that change in my life, my brain's like going crazy, rewiring for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
After I pummeled it for 30 years, I just was like, every time I want to have a drink, I'm going to play. And it worked. And eventually it became like, after about the first 3 weeks, it was like, it wasn't a rule anymore. I'm at work, I'm driving home from work, and instead of craving, I'm like, I'm going to get home and work on that thing. So I wrote enough stuff to keep me busy.
Yeah.
And then it started snowballing. So
okay.
I want to do a solo acoustic record is what I want to do.
I was going to mention that too, and I got sidetracked.
Fucking nothing.
I remember talking to you years ago about why don't you just go out and play acoustic and sing and just do your own thing, because that was around maybe it was the COVID time when everything shifted to like bars getting an individual for happy hour versus paying a band for later. And I remember at the time you're like, oh no, oh no. And now recently you've gone and done it, and I'm so upset that I didn't go to that show. But
I want to do more shows. Well, I think I finally figured out how to do it. It's just you got using different tunings and focusing more on the guitar parts than the vocal parts, and that's what I've missed before.
Okay,
trying to build a foundation, and then it's easier to write vocal lines if I've got a solid ass composition there guitar wise.
So the acoustic show you just played was original acoustic?
It was all originals, yeah.
Is that what you're going to stick with?
I don't want to do covers. Uncle Chunk's busy enough. I don't know other covers.
I respect that, but I will tell you, there's been a couple of times where you've done acoustic covers that have blown me away. I remember the Elton John that you did back in the day.
Oh my God, man!
So
maybe you want at the end of the set,
you add so much of yourself into that cover that it's almost original. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I respect the originals and I love what you write, but don't just I ain't doing a cover, because it's not a cover when you do it. Just throwing that there.
I mean, that's the only way I'd be able to get any shows, but I don't know what to do. I just know I want to make a record of just myself. I've never done it in my life. And I'm 54 years old and I'm like, I should just do my own thing just once.
Yeah, what's stopping you? You're writing.
It's Casanatra's already have enough songs for records. So I'm like, well, I got all these tunes. I want to do this and approach it with just the thought of going into a room with a mic with just you and a guitar. That's it.
You just need a quiet room to do it in.
Find a really good quiet room and a really good mic and a really good engineer.
You should be the engineer.
Oh, it's not my. Oh my God.
No. You think you'd never? It'd be like that piece of art that just could never get finished because you're not happy enough with it.
I would scrap it. Absolutely. I would hate it after 2 weeks.
Oh my God. Well, I'll wait patiently for it, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.
That's all I got, man. Do you got anything else?
I got nothing else.
All right.
I can't wait to jam with you again.
We should do like a couple of Sundays and learn a new food tune.
Yes, we should. That would make those kids so happy.
I think so too. And I'm usually the one going,
Oh, I'm right there with you.
All right, let's plan on
thank God he doesn't want to learn that song.
Let's plan on a couple of Sundays before November 15th, and we'll do that.
All right, cool.
All right. Well, I thank you very much, sir. This has been Stunner Stage with Mr. Dennis Asher.
I love you, buddy.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Boom.